it's Brendan Payne with Century 21, and I wanted to kind of give you some insight and explain one of the questions that I get from consumers all the time when I'm on a listing appointment, and it's kind of comical sometimes. They'll bring up, I've interviewed 4 or 5 agents, and it seems like everybody is number one. How can that be? And so I wanted to give you some background into some things that you can look for to really determine who is the best fit when you decide to list your property, whether it's been on the market and failed to sell, or you're at the beginning stages of deciding who are you going to list your property with. A couple key things to remember. Number one is understand that there's a lot of facts and figures that get floated around when someone is in an interview process for a listing, for trying to get a listing. And the competition in our market with as many agents that we have and as many transactions as we have and with as much competition as there is for listing is very tight. So a lot of times the different information that you get as the seller presented to you may show you that a certain agent or an office is number one, but it's really important that you be clear on what numbers are they looking at. Most buyers and sellers would have no idea how much difference there is, production difference, say between the top 15 to 20 agents in a market versus the agents that are maybe from 80 to 100. Vast difference in number 80 to 100 versus number 1 through 20. And all of those agents are in the top 100. Now imagine, if you would, a market that has several thousand agents, meaning the difference between the top 0.5% or 1% versus the number 2 or 3 percentile is huge when you compare it to the rest of the market and the average agents selling less than 5 transactions. So how can everybody be number one? Very important to realize that you have to know the numbers you're looking at. If you can slice and dice the numbers enough ways, then everybody can really be number one at something. So it's important to know, are you looking at market numbers? Are you looking at neighborhood numbers? Are you looking at this year's numbers, last year's numbers, the last 25-year numbers? And then really decide how important are the numbers to you and why are they important, okay? So that's step one. Step two is to decide really when you get that back on the market, then what within what that agent's doing is going to be most important for you. Because if you're simply going down and sitting down and going purely off the numbers, remember that's previous activity. That's previous activity. And past activity is not always a great indicator of future results. So what you really want to be talking about is things like, what's the marketing plan for my property? How are you going to get it more exposure? It's great that you've already done all this, but what are you going to do now going forward? Because frankly, previous sales don't do anything to market your home, okay? Number 3 is when you're looking at number 1 in marketing, or number 1 in this community, or we're the best of the community, best of the town, best of the beach, best of the city, all of those things. One critical piece of information that you want to ask is, are your marketing dollars being spent on my property that I'm going to list with you, or are your marketing dollars being spent on marketing yourself? Because there's a difference. There's a kind of a rock star mentality, I think, that you'll see a lot of times out there with in a lot of different industries, where the billboards and you want to be plastered all over because it's name recognition. And that money in marketing is very effective, and it's very effective at getting the agent's name out there, which maybe will draw them more listings and more clients, but it doesn't do a lot in order to market the actual property. Now, if what's important to you is to help that agent market their own team or their own company or their own face and persona in the community, then that's fine. But if it's more important for you to have the marketing dollars spent on marketing your property, then be aware there is a big difference in our market with those, and make sure that you're choosing the right fit for what your expectations are in the listing. If I can share any other information that is important to you about selling, or if you've been on the market before and have failed to sell, please reach out to me and I can give you some thoughts. no obligations, give you some thoughts on what it's going to take this time around to actually get your property sold. Thanks a lot.